Alright guys, it is that time of year again. It is time for mock drafts. Now this is always my favorite part because I love the drafts. I love watching tape and trying to figure out what a prospect's like and kind of figure out what they're going to be like in the NFL. So let's get right into it. Alright, this is going to be a no trade kind of stick and pick draft where, you have to go with what's on the board. So for the Bears at number 1, I think if they're in this position, I'm keeping Justin Fields. Justin Fields is a proven NFL caliber quarterback, and I think he can actually do really well next year. So I am personally going with Marvin Harrison Jr. Give him another weapon alongside DJ Moore. Luke Getsy's gone. You have that play calling gone, so we can see what he can really do this year with 2 great receivers. I think that'll be a huge boost for him in 2024. Giving the best wide receiver prospect since Megatron will be an absolutely huge boost, and if he still doesn't do well, then you know what you need to fix, and you can move up in next year's draft. Next year's draft will still have a lot of great quarterbacks that won't be of this elite caliber, but it will still be a good draft for quarterbacks. Number 2, the Commanders. I feel like this one's kind of a layup. You can go offensive line, which is what I would personally do. Normally, I would trade down if I were the Commanders. If I were doing trades, I would trade down and I would go with Olu Fashanu or Joe Alt to kind of fortify that O-line because I think Sam Howell is the guy. But in this position, if I'm not trading, I'm not reaching for one of those prospects. I'm going with Caleb Williams here, the obvious layup. I am going to trade Sam Howell for some day 2 compensation, get some picks back, try and bolster the team around Caleb. They did bench Sam Howell late on in the season, which could prove that they want to move on, but we don't really know, being that there will be a new head coach in the building, a new GM, and Josh Harris is really trying to change the entire culture around the Commanders. At number 3, the Patriots. Now that Bill Belichick's gone, it's going to be a little bit different, but I think they'll still stick to their roots with the prototypical pocket passer. They're going to take Drake May. Drake May, I'm not that high on. I don't think he's going to be a great NFL caliber quarterback. I think he'll be decent, but I don't think he's going to be great. I think he's going to be kind of in that Jared Goff range where, you'll get those games out of him, but he's not going to be a consistent top 10 quarterback. Though I'm not that high on him, he is regarded as a surefire top 3 pick, which I think the Patriots are going to buy into. So I will give them Drake May here, even though I personally would not make that pick. At number 4 for the Cardinals, in a perfect world, Marvin Harrison Jr. would still be here, but he went at number 1 to the Bears. So we kind of want to fortify that offensive line around Kyler. I'm going to go with Olu Fashanu, where even though PFF has him ranked at number 9, he is my offensive lineman 1 in this draft. He was dominant at Penn State, and that is going to instantly transfer to the NFL. I think if you fix that line around Kyler with Paris Johnson Jr. and Olu protecting him, he is going to be in a great scenario, especially if you can get him wide receivers down the road, which is obviously where Marvin Harrison Jr. could come into play. At number 5, the Chargers, they kind of have a lot of options here. There's obviously Malik Neighbors, who could be your new wide receiver 1 when Keenan Allen retires, or there's Brock Bowers, which I'm personally going to pick here. Brock Bowers is a generational tight end, and if it comes down to him versus Neighbors, I think they take Brock Bowers because it is so much harder to find a great tight end. Bowers will probably be a top 10 tight end in the NFL next year, off the rip, if he's not top 5. He is insanely good. You can find wide receivers in almost any draft that stack up to Malik Neighbors, even though he is a great prospect. You cannot find a tight end like Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is just insane, so I think the Chargers will go with that, and they'll try and work on wide receiver later on in this draft or in next year's draft. Now, the Giants are an interesting one. A lot of people have been mocking them quarterbacks, but I'm not personally on that train. I think they'll give Daniel Jones 1 more year, and in doing that, they're going to give him Malik Neighbors to work with, the future wide receiver 1, to actually help out Daniel Jones. There is a distinct possibility that they go Joe Alt because offensive line and wide receiver were their 2 weaknesses this year. I think they go Malik Neighbors, though, to see what they have in Daniel Jones a little bit more because they know he can scramble, and if they give him those weapons to work with, they can really see more what they have in him as opposed to an offensive line. At number 7 for the Titans, I have them taking Joe Alt. Joe Alt is an amazing tackle, and in the press conference after the season, Amy Adams-Strunk made it very clear that Will Levis is going to be the future in Tennessee, and they're really heavily relying on that. So I see them trying to work that offensive line around him, where they already got Peter Skoronski last draft. They're going to put Joe Alt next to him and just get that blind side completely figured out. Now, the Falcons are a very interesting one because they have a lot of routes they can go. With a new head coach, we really don't know what they're going to want. I have them going Jaden Daniels because I don't think Desmond Ridder is the guy. I don't think Atlanta thinks he's the guy. And I don't think Arthur Blank wants him in there anymore. They could stick with Taylor Heineke for a season and see just kind of try and get weapons around him, get the quarterback of the future in the next draft, and fortify their weapons here. But I think they go Jaden Daniels because he just won the Heisman. He is too great a prospect to pass up right here, right now. The new coach will probably want their guy. Daniels is a stud. He's mobile, but he can make almost any throw on the field. He does have some issues with his drop back consistency. He needs to work on his pocket a little bit. He'll just run out instantly sometimes, and he doesn't even try and work with the pocket. He just scrambles. And then he throws the ball on a rope a lot, and that's not as much an issue because you can fix that very easily. But Jaden Daniels is too good a prospect for the Falcons to pass up here at 8 because they haven't gone with that quarterback super high in the draft in a while. At number 9, we're going to take our first defensive player off the board here. Alabama seems to have a consistent theme of taking that first player on the defense. Now, Dallas Turner is an absolute game changer, especially with the Bears now having Montez Sweat. They can fortify that defensive line because their secondary is actually really good. They actually proved that a lot near the end of the year, but they do need another game changer on that D-line, and that is what I think Dallas Turner can be in Chicago. Now, the Jets are a very interesting one. I think with Aaron Rodgers coming back next year, having injured himself very early on in the season, like 4 snaps in or something, and seeing what Zach Wilson had to go through this season, running for his life every single play, I think they go with an offensive lineman here. So they're going to take Talise Fuaga from Oregon State. He was an absolute stud last year, and then they really need to work on that offensive line. Because if they can fix that, they have an absolute game-changing offense with Breece Hall in the backfield and Garrett Wilson to throw to. It puts an absolute dream situation in for Nathaniel Hackett if he remains the OC next year, and Robert Saleh may not be as much on the hot seat next year, although honestly, I'm not that sold on him as coach. But that's a conversation for a different video. At number 11, for my Minnesota Vikings, I have us taking Nate Wiggins, like a corner from Clemson. Now, he is an absolute CB1, and I think Brian Flores will be looking for that, having revamped this defense after the Ed Donatell disaster. Mekhi Blackman and Byron Murphy were solid for us this year, but we do need that true game changer. Now, Wiggins grades out at an 89.3 for me, which is similar to Joey Porter Jr., where I also think he's a very similar player to Joey Porter Jr. He's got the size, he's got the speed, and he can read a quarterback. And I think we need to shore up our secondary so our D-line doesn't have to do all the work on defense, and hopefully we won't have as many of those big plays as we did towards the end of the year, giving our offense a good situation for 2024. At number 12, for the Broncos, I have them taking Laiatu Latu. Now, Latu is a game changer at the position. He has absolute heat coming off the edge. He will get to the quarterback. I think he is a top 5 talent, but he probably did slip a little bit due to his medical concerns. He did have to medically retire a few years ago at Washington before he transferred to UCLA, which is a whole interesting scenario since he's, back to playing again. But I think those injury concerns will cause him to slide, and I think the Broncos might just take that chance on him, because if he can stay healthy, he is such a great player. For the Raiders at number 13, I have them taking Johnny Newton, a D-tackle from Illinois. The Raiders need a D-tackle with that size and power on the interior to stop the run, and I think he will be an absolute stud alongside Max Crosby and Tyree Wilson if he can develop. The Raiders really need that for the revamped Antonio Pierce defense. They could also go corner because they do need corners pretty badly, but I think that Johnny Newton will be just too much for them to pass up pick 13 because he's an absolute stud at the position, and he will play through that whistle, which is exactly what the Raiders look for in a player. At number 14, I have the Saints taking J.C. Latham from Alabama. Now, he is a pure power tackle, but he does need to cut down on those penalties and kind of improve his balance at the position. But his 2-year starting at Alabama will make a huge instant impact for Derek Carr, which I think the Saints stick with at quarterback. They gave him a bag. They made quite a trade for him. I think they'll want to see it through. Where Dennis Allen is expected to be the coach next year, I think the offense will still be really good. They just need time in that pocket to get the ball to their playmakers. Now, at 15, I have the Colts taking Alabama cornerback Kool-Aid McKinstry. McKinstry was once regarded as the CB1 in this draft. I have him at CB2, grading him out as an 89.5, just behind Nate Wiggins. Now, I think Kool-Aid is a great player, and with Juju Brents being a good player when he's healthy, but being unable to stay healthy, and Kenny Moore being a relatively mid-corner, to be 100% honest, I think they really, like the Vikings, need that true game changer at corner, and I think Kool-Aid can be that guy. Now, a lot of mocks have Brock Bowers slipping all the way down here, so I think they could look at tight end because Anthony Richardson could use that huge game changer at the position, especially if they re-sign Michael Pittman Jr. or lose him in free agency, because we still don't know the situation of that. I would personally sign Michael Pittman Jr. The Colts pick is going to be an interesting one to watch, as I feel like theirs is widely influenced by the ones around them and what happens, because there are a lot of prospects above them where if they slip, they could grab them, because Colts, honestly, as good a team as they are, they need players at a lot of positions. So honestly, this one's just a true toss-up. For the Seahawks at number 16, I have them taking Troy Fautanu, the tackle from Washington. I think at the next level, Troy will kick inside and he'll play guard for Seattle, which will be a huge boost for their offensive line. Now, honestly, they need to protect Geno because he has not been playing like 2022 Geno, and they really need that quarterback back. Overall, Seattle could go a lot of ways, but I think Troy is their best pick. While he's not the BPA, I think he is a great player and he will fit in perfectly into Seattle. For the Jags at 17, I have them taking Washington wide receiver Rome Odunze. Now, Odunze is a great player, and with Calvin Ridley set to hit free agency, whether they keep or retain him, they need that deep threat, which Odunze proved to be with Michael Penix in 2023. While wide receiver is not their biggest need, they can pick up an absolute game changer here, and I think that would be too much for them to pass up. O-line is probably what they should do here, but I think that they'll see the value in Odunze and they'll work on O-line on day 2, which is much easier to do than a wide receiver. For the Bengals at 18, I have them taking tackle Amarius Mims from Georgia. With Jonah Williams set to be a free agent, tackle is a huge need for them. They didn't protect Joe Burrow this year, so what makes them think they're going to be able to do it next year if they don't make some changes? Now, Mims is a massive human being. He's like 6'7", 340, which is huge for a tackle, and he honestly has the talent to match. Like I mentioned, Joe Burrow does need protection from his O-line if they plan on making a deep playoff run. I think Mims would be perfect to blindside block for him. If they can give Joe Burrow time, he can get the ball to their game changers and Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, maybe, and Tyler Boyd. Overall, I think it would just bring this offense up a level, and I think it would make Bengals a serious Super Bowl contender next year, especially if Joe Burrow doesn't get hurt. For the Packers at 19, I have them taking cornerback from Iowa, Cooper DeJean. Now, Cooper, we don't know if he's going to play corner or safety at the next level, but Green Bay needs both, so it's not an issue. He is a true ball hawk, though. I mean, he had 5 interceptions in 2022. Probably would have had somewhere near the same if he didn't get injured with his lower leg, but that should be resolved come OTAs. And honestly, I think he's just the type of player that is going to make opposing quarterbacks' lives awful when they come to Lambeau or when he visits them at their house. He's going to be an absolute game changer for the Green Bay defense, which hopefully Joe Barry is not leading, because honestly, he's not a great defensive coordinator. Even though they have been playing well recently, he needs to go. But Cooper DeJean would make an instant impact on Green Bay's defense, and I think he is the pick for them here at 19. At 20, I have the Buccaneers taking Jared Verse, an edge from Florida State. Now, Verse is a great player. He is BPA at this point for me, so I think that there are bigger needs for the Bucs to address, but he really is just BPA right now. He's a game wrecker that you could pair along Vita Vea and Kalijah Cansey if he can develop, and that D-line would be absolutely incredible. Now, if you can stop that run, you can make opposing offenses one-dimensional, and that would give the Bucs a huge boost, especially since Baker is playing really well right now, which I think the Bucs need to keep Baker. Now, Verse is a great combination of power and speed, which he showed on that Florida State defense, which was really elite all year. Overall, Jared Verse would just make an absolutely massive impact on that Bucs defense, and I think he is the choice for them at number 20. For the Cardinals at 21, I think they just have to go BPA here, which for me is Terrion Arnold. Now, Arnold, he is a great corner, but the Cardinals, they just need a full rebuild everywhere. I mean, yeah. But they're going to take BPA and a CB1. He's going to be a cornerstone on this defense for years to come, so they can focus on other spots in other drafts or later in this draft, because they truly do need to fix that defense for Jonathan Gannon to work with, because Jonathan Gannon is a great head coach. He just needs the talent to be there, and Terrion Arnold has plenty of that talent. At 22, the Rams, they're going to take a little bit of a shock here. I think they take Michael Penix. Now, do I think Michael Penix is a great quarterback? Yes. Do I think he is ready to start in the NFL? No. The Rams, they might want to start considering a line of succession at that quarterback position. You know, Matt Stafford, while still is a great quarterback, he's getting a little bit older. So I think they really need to do the kind of Jordan Love Packers route. I think they need to sit Penix for like 2 years under Stafford, let him teach Penix everything, and then Stafford moves on and Penix can step into that spot. He is a great prospect, but I think he just needs polishing, which if they can figure that out and do it correctly, he could be the Rams quarterback for years to come. At 23, I think the Steelers have to take O-line here, Jordan Morgan. He is a great tackle, and they need to protect whoever's under center. He would pair well across from Broderick Jones, giving Kenny Pickett a fair shot at quarterback, especially now that he's not in Canada's system. Now, if they cut out core 4, they could save $8.75 million against the cap, and that would really help them invest in other positions. Jordan Morgan honestly could be a great tackle for a long time, so if they can get this and they can lock him down and get that O-line moving, they can really figure out what they need to do at the quarterback position, which I think will be Kenny Pickett. For the Dolphins at 24, I have them taking edge Braylon Trice out of Washington. Trice is a great player. He's one of the hardest playing pass rushers I've seen in a long time. Incredible combination of speed and power. And the Dolphins pass rush was killed by injuries this year. Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, and Andrew Van Ginkel. Now, Gink is a free agent this year, so I think they probably will move on from him with Braylon Trice. And honestly, Trice is going to be a great player in the NFL. Now, he is BPA here for me, although you could argue that Brian Thomas Jr. or Bo Nix or Braswell are great players too. I think they are, but they're not the picks for Miami here. Now, at 25 for the Eagles, I have them taking edge. You have to scroll down a while. Chop Robinson from Penn State. Now, Brandon Graham turns 36 before the 2024 season, so I think they'll look to kind of move on from him a little bit, especially after they waive Derek Barnett now that he's on the Texans. Now, Chop Robinson, he could work with one of the best interior D-lines in football with the Eagles, but their edge does need replenishment. Robinson could be a beast in the league given the right coaching, and the Eagles absolutely have some of the best D-line coaching in football right now. Do the Eagles take Chop Robinson? Honestly, they might look somewhere else. The Eagles are known to not really want to take edge, and they don't want to take D-line unless they're from Georgia, and Chop Robinson is from Penn State. So, is this a pick? Probably not, but I think it's the best pick for them, especially in this mock. For the Chiefs at 26, I think this one's pretty obvious. They take Brian Thomas Jr. here. You know, outside of Rice, Kelsey, and Pacheco, Mahomes has no weapons, and Kansas City needs that big play guy. Brian Thomas Jr. averaged 17.3 yards per play in 2023, nearly reaching 1,200 yards, and he was a wide receiver too, to, in my opinion, the best wide receiver in college football this past year. And he was that big play guy at LSU, something that Mahomes really needs, because honestly, I think he'd work really well in that out-of-structure kind of play style that Mahomes likes to use. He was really good at that with Jaden Daniels, so I think that would carry up to the NFL, work well with Mahomes, and I think he'd be a great pick for Kansas City at 26. For the Texans at 27, this is another one where I'm going purely off of who is a good player and who would fit, and I think that's Kenyon Mitchell. Now, the cornerback out of Toledo, he might not be known for facing the most elite offenses, but he was absolutely shut down, and he is really just a D'Amico Ryans guy on tape. He had 18 passes defended in 2023, and he would pair really, really well alongside Derek Stingley Jr. Now, he really is a D'Amico Ryans guy. If you watch his tape, you can see his passion and his energy for the game. That is what the Texans are all about this year. Now that they're in the playoffs, they're showing that they can be a really good team. They just need to shore up that cornerback room, because outside of Stingley, they don't really have much. And honestly, if they make it really far this year, they could go even farther with that extra help on defense. With the 28th pick, I do see the Lions taking a corner. Now, this is another situation where the offense has looked really good and the defense has looked all right in the front seven, but the secondary is lacking a little bit. So I think they take Kamari Lassiter out of Georgia. Now, Lassiter is a great player. And the Lions offense continues to be a top 5 unit, although Ben Johnson might be leaving. We're not sure yet. Probably will, because he is the most sought after head coach candidate right now. But yeah, the front seven for the Lions defense is really, really solid. They get to the quarterback. They're great in coverage. It doesn't matter what they do it well. But they do need more talent in their coverage. They're giving up way too many big plays in 2023, and I think that will come back to hurt them. Now, Lassiter is a shutdown guy. He's kind of that guy you want out there for a big play. He's the guy you want to prevent, because he can get up there, he can knock the ball away, he can pick it off, he can do just about anything you need, and that's what the Lions really need in a corner right now. They don't need that true lockdown corner, although that would be great. They need that guy that can prevent the big plays, and I think that's what Lassiter could be for them in 2024. For the Bills at 29, I have them taking Tez Walker, a wide receiver out of North Carolina. Now, he is well known for his whole waiver situation, but outside of that, he is a great X receiver. He can play anywhere, and he will do it amazingly. Now, Gabe Davis is set to be a free agent, which in my opinion is not a bad thing, because Gabe Davis is not a great wide receiver, and I think Walker would be great to pair alongside Stephon Diggs, Dawson Knox, and Dalton Kincaid. Now, is this offense going to be instantly changed with the addition of Tez Walker? Maybe. I mean, honestly, I feel like that wide receiver 2-3 is so weak for the Bills that just putting someone in there like Tez that can make those plays could honestly bring them up 2 or 3 wins a season. It is such an awful situation for Josh Allen, having to either throw to his tight end, to Stephon Diggs, now hand it off to James Cook now that they're running the ball, or scramble, and honestly, that is not a great situation for a quarterback to be in. He should be able to make his reads and then go if he needs to go. And I think Tez Walker would be that great depth piece that gives Josh Allen just that next read. For the Cowboys at 30, I have them taking Cam Kitchens. Kitchens is a great player. He plays for Miami. And honestly, we need someone who can capitalize on that chaos that Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence can create on that front end. When they can get opposing quarterbacks to scramble, they need those playmakers in the back. And while Trayvon Diggs has been out, which would be a great help, Stephon Gilmore and Jaron Kearse and all of the guys back in their secondary have not been great at capitalizing off that chaos. They can get a quarterback to scramble, but he just finds the receiver. It's not how it should be. Micah Parsons is getting double teamed more than any other edge rusher, and he's still creating chaos. They just need that next guy that can get the picks, get the defended passes and all that to kind of help their defense out a little bit. At number 31, I have the 49ers taking Graham Barton, a tackle out of Duke, and this is another one that I think could honestly kick inside to guard in the league. Barton would be great for the 49ers because they need that run blocker for Shanahan's scheme because he does so much of it, and with Christian McCaffrey in the backfield, why wouldn't you, honestly? Barton could be a plug-and-play anywhere on their line, in my opinion, showing a lot of promise at almost every position in his time at Duke. He is a great player. Will he stay at tackle? Will he kick into guard? We don't know yet. But I think the 49ers just need that piece on the offensive line to work with, and I think Barton could be that guy for them. And finally, at number 32, I have the Ravens taking Chris Braswell, an edge from Alabama. Jadeveon Clowney is set to be a free agent, so I think they need to really figure out what they're going to do if/when he leaves. That front seven has been playing lights out for the Ravens, and they really just need to fix that. Braswell does have a ton of power, and he can really excel in that Ravens scheme. I don't know what it is about some of these guys, but they just kind of fit right in with the culture of some of these teams, and Braswell is one of those. The Ravens like to play lights out, and Braswell does that well, and he did that well at Alabama, so I think that will carry up to the next level. But yeah, that is the first round mock draft. No trades. I think, honestly, a lot of these could be different. A lot of these are going to be different because a lot of trades are going to happen in the first round. In last year's draft, we saw a lot of trades, and I see that kind of continuing again this year. I think that number 1, number 2 is already wrong. I think Caleb Williams will go number 1 no matter what, no matter who is in the spot, because I think the Bears either trade down and stay close enough that they can grab one of their top guys, or they just take Caleb Williams and trade Justin Fields for day 2 comp. It's going to be an interesting scenario for this draft because there are a lot of things that can happen. There are a lot of elite quarterbacks, and I think I only took 4 in the first draft, and there can be as many as 5 or 6 taken in the first round. We don't know, and that's what makes this draft so much fun. So if you enjoyed the video, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and comment what videos you want to see on my channel next. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.